Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Lane One Making Waves. This week on the podcast, I am joined by one of the most recognizable voices in the sport of swimming, Rowdy Gaines, a three-time Olympic gold medalist, world record setter, international swimming Hall of Famer. Rowdy has made history not only in the pool, but he's also brought that history to life as the voice of swimming for NBC since 1992. From inspiring generations of athletes to championing water safety and youth development, Rowdy's impact reaches far beyond the lanes. Within this conversation, we touch on how he got started in the sport, what led him to commentating, the new CEO for USA Swimming, and also a little bit of the controversy that just happened at World Champs. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. Well, first, I just want to thank Rowdy for taking time out of his busy and hectic life to sit down with me today. I know we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you're right smack dab in the middle of moving. So thanks for, squeezing me in. Moving is crazy and terrible and awesome all at the same time.
No problem, Summer. I've been excited about this and been following your podcasts and stuff, and you're great. And no, I'm excited and thank you. It's on an honor to be on with you.
No, I appreciate the kind words. I don't know if you remember the first time we met. It was a very long time ago. I think it might have been the only time we met in person, but you were at the YMCA pool in Orlando. And I believe it was either senior champs or sectionals or our Florida age group meet. And you arrived to the pool, and I believe you were one of the first ones there. And my family were a bunch of early birds too, so I was also one of the first ones there, just sitting in the stands. And there you were, walking around the pool deck, just picking up trash. So, picking up the trash that us swimmers had left behind, Gatorade bottles, Powerade wrappers. And I myself, I'm 13, 14, so I'm absolutely starstruck that I'm in this building with Rowdy Gaines kind of all by myself. And I walk over and I start picking up trash, and you told me, no, 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 I got this. You go sit down, you get ready for your race. I can handle this. And that's something that has stuck with me for such a long time. Just having someone like you in the sport who not only has competed at the highest level, has announced at the highest level, but also is giving back in such strides to our age group swimming, to even our grassroots before you get into age group swimming. So I just wanted to throw that out there as it's a memory that still sticks with me, and it's something that I think our whole swimming community can really get behind.
Well, thank you. And I do remember
Oh,
that.
really?
Yes, I do remember that. And at the time I don't think I realized I put two and two together on who you were. But I do remember saying, oh, she's got to get ready for swimming. She didn't, it was very nice of you to, to help and everything. But yeah, I mean, you chip in where you can, I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none.
So I think you've mastered pretty much all of them that you've been involved in.
No, no, but your family has meant a lot to me throughout my life, and I don't not throughout my life, but throughout the last few years. And your mom is awesome,
Crazy. She's
and
so
I love
sweet.
seeing her every time I get down to the Tampa area.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My mom and my dad are both like, make sure you tell Rowdy that we said hi. So they speak so
Right back at
highly.
her.
Yeah, absolutely. People call you the voice of swimming, and you've been the voice of swimming for decades. I think every Olympic Games that I've watched, you have been commentating and narrating on. What does that mean to you personally when you hear it?
Well, first of all, Summer, I never thought in a million years that I'd be calling my 10th Olympic Games in Los
Mhm.
Angeles. I started in 92 and I thought it was going to be kind of a one and done thing and
Yeah.
never realized that I was going to be continuing to do that with so many Olympic Games. And I don't want to sound corny, but I feel very blessed. I feel blessed that NBC trusted me to be able to do this every 4 years. Um, and I love swimming, man. I mean, I'm sure your brother and many others will tell you that, you know, I'm not as knowledgeable. as about 99% of other people, but nobody loves it more than I do.
Yeah.
I can promise you that. I love the sport. It's meant a lot to me. It really saved my life in many ways when I first started swimming. And so I try to bring that passion to the average person that knows nothing about swimming.
Hmm.
I'm not really commentating or broadcasting to people like you. Um, I'm doing it to the person because I want to bring more people into the sport. You're going to watch no matter what,
Yeah.
right? So you're already hooked. So it doesn't matter who's commentating, but I really love knowing that I can bring new people into the sport and make people understand that these kids train really, really hard, man. They dedicate their lives to this without making much money. And so I try to bring that to life a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it definitely shows your passion every time we have
Hmm,
the Rowdy Cam on
a little
TV.
too much.
No, no, no. I think it's perfect. It's what the sport of swimming needs. We need someone to get excited about these races and to also make it exciting for the people from the outside who may only watch, as you said,
Right.
once every 4 years, who
That's right.
don't know what a starting block is. I mean, it's something that you and I, it's ingrained into our system, but then you take a step back. And my current boyfriend, the Olympics was his first swim meet. And I had to bring him back down. I was like, they're not all like this. But he was asking, he's like, what is that block that they're going after? Like, what do the flags do? Why are they taking the flags away? And there's so many elements of it that, like,
Yeah,
from the outside looking in, they don't
so
know.
true.
And so it's crazy.
Yeah, it's so true. You're right because and that's what remember you're having 25, 30 million people
Mhm.
watching a swim meet every 4 years. Normally on our pro swims and even nationals, about 500,000 watch.
Yeah.
So it's that's 20 million people or 25 million people that don't know anything about swimming, like you
Hmm.
said, like your boyfriend. I mean, it's so you a lot of it's educational, but more so than that is to try to share the stories.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so proud to do it with Dan Hicks, my partner, because what we do is not so much the nuts and bolts and splits and stuff like that, but it's like let's tell the story of Annie Laser,
Hmm.
who lost a parent right before the Olympic trials, and how her rival and teammate, Lily King, went to the funeral with her and shared that. So you want to share those personal stories as much as you can
Yeah.
to humanize them and also to show the audience, how incredibly dedicated these athletes are.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm definitely biased when it comes to swimming, but I think it's one of the most difficult sports to train for and to compete in
Yeah.
and to continue out through the longevity of your life post college. You got your start in swimming a lot later than most athletes. How did you first get into the sport and when did it really start to click for you?
Well, I didn't really start swimming until I was 17 years old. I was a junior in high school, and I'm from Winter Haven, which
Yeah.
is just down the street. And growing up in Florida, as you know, water is part of your DNA. It's part of the fabric of who you are on a day-to-day basis. Our lives revolve around the water, whether you're a swimmer or not. And my parents water skied for a place called Cypress Gardens. It's now Legoland. And I loved the water, but I never swam competitively until I got to high school. I learned how to swim before I learned how to walk. I was 9 months old, but yeah, I tried out for a bunch of sports. I tried out for 5 different sports and
Yeah.
got cut in every one of them in high school,
No.
and I just sucked at everything. And I did. I've been really bad. But I never gave up, and swimming was just next. I didn't think much of it when I tried out, but I didn't get cut, you
Yeah.
know. And so as time went on, as the weeks followed, I started learning how to do a flip turn and put my head in the water. I got a pair of goggles, got a regular swimsuit instead of cutoffs. I mean, you should have seen me that first couple of weeks, Summer. You would have definitely laughed. My first race, Summer, my first race was about 2 weeks after I started. We had our first swim meet. And this is again, I didn't own a swimsuit. I swam in cutoffs,
Yeah.
no goggles. I went and my coach was trying to get rid of me because he was the football coach and he had already cut me once, right? And so he put me in the 500 free. Dude, I went 9 minutes and 36
He
seconds in the
put you in the
500 free.
500 just off the bat.
Yeah,
No
500 free.
goggles.
No goggles, running into lane line. I look like a little 5-year-old running in the lane line. Um, but I swam a 50 freestyle and I went like 24 seconds or something,
Hmm.
and I think at that point the coach said, "Oh, wow, that's pretty good. You sucked in the 500, but that 50 was pretty good." And
Yeah.
so literally right after that, it was 2 weeks in, that's when, went out and bought a pair of goggles and bought a regular swimsuit and knew that I wasn't going to get cut because I didn't want to invest in all that if I thought I was going to get cut.
No, but then it only took 2 years, I believe, for you to break your first world record, which
Two
is
and a half years, yeah.
2.5 years, which is just absolutely incredible and something I don't think a lot of people realize, especially the people who are tuning into NBC once every 4 years to watch the Olympics, is that the guy
Yeah.
commentating broke a world record 2.5 years after just starting the sport, which, like I said, just as a sport, just jaw dropping.
Yeah, it did happen fast, and I was blessed. The Lord blessed me with a gift, no doubt about it. And uh, yeah, I became obsessed, Summer. I mean, I did everything possible to be better in the sport,
Mhm.
checking books out in the library, which is what you did back then, to sneaking into motels to swim in the mornings because we didn't have morning workouts in our high school, and I wrote 50 colleges asking them what I needed to do to earn a scholarship. I just, I did everything humanly possible as long as it was legally and morally right, right? To be better.
Yeah.
But it did accelerate, especially when I went to college.
No, the grit and the determination are something that you can't get away from in
Yeah.
swimming. I mean, even in 2.5 years,
Yes.
there's so much grit and determination and,
So true.
sacrifices that you have to
Yeah.
make to get to that point that, you know, other sports may not necessarily have, but sports in general do have.
Yeah. No
Um,
doubt. Yeah. Yeah. I'll stack our sport against any others,
yep,
for the values you learn on a daily basis.
absolutely.
I mean, it's a wonderful sport. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, no, it is not.
Um,
Looking back, both as an Olympian and also as a broadcaster, what is one moment that truly cemented your love for swimming?
boy, that's a great question. I think the love really cemented for me initially my senior year in high school at state champs, 4A state champs.
Yep.
Do they still have 4A and 5A and
I think,
3A?
yep, they moved up to 5A because there's so many
Yeah.
different schools now.
Oh, big high schools. Yeah,
Yeah.
4A was the biggest back then. And I won our state meet, high school meet, my senior year. And I had finished sixth. I made the state meets my junior year, believe it or not. That's when I started, but I finished 16th out of 16 swimmers. So winning that senior year, and Eddie Reese, who was the coach of Auburn, came down and recruited me. I flew back to Auburn and fell in love with the school and decided to go to school there. I desperately wanted to go to Florida,
Hmm.
but they never recruited me. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that moment in time for me, like, oh man, this is my sport. This is the sport that I so desperately. That's when my Olympic dream started.
Yeah.
There was no Olympic dream when I made my high school team or even that summer, but the Olympic dream started after I won that state high school meet.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about, the atmosphere of being recruited to go swim and compete in college, the camaraderie that you experience. Your
Yeah,
teammates are next to you, and you see them working for the same goals that you have that really cements, everyone working together.
yeah.
And
So
because you
true.
want to be better and go to the Olympics and turn pro,
Yeah.
not only for yourself but for them as well.
Yeah. So true. You really build that. I mean, so many people, I get so many people tell me that swimming is such an individual sport. It's not really a team sport. And I so disagree.
100%, yeah.
High school, college, even you're at a club level, it's very much a team-oriented sport. And relays. I mean, there's so many aspects of the sport being team. Yes, you're the only one looking at the bottom of the lines on the bottom of the pool when you're swimming, but in many ways, there's no way I would have gotten through those long days. I'm sure you didn't either
Mhm.
without the support and knowing that everybody else was in pain with you.
Yes, there's something about that, knowing that everyone else is, suffering alongside you. It's not just
Right,
you
right.
alone.
That's
Um,
right.
you've seen swimming evolve in so many different ways, whether it's tech suits, these new goggles, starting blocks, wedges, training methods, technology. What feels most different for you compared to when you were competing?
Mm, another great question. I think the biggest difference is not the technical side, it's money.
Yeah.
So when I swam summer, there was no money in sport. In fact, even after graduating from college, you were not allowed to take money. It was strictly an amateur sport.
Oh, really?
I worked as a night clerk in a hotel in Austin, Texas for 2 years after I graduated. Um, I worked at the Hyatt Regency, the 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift every night. Um, because I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And I was the world record holder in the 100 and the 200 free.
Oh my gosh.
But so money has changed the sport dramatically to keep athletes in the sport longer. When I won in '84, I was 25 and the third oldest swimmer in history to ever win a gold medal. So it was back then a very, very much a young person sport.
Mhm.
So money has evolved and helped the sport in many ways. I still think the majority of our athletes that have those Olympic dreams that are swimming post grad still struggle.
Yeah.
Very few end up making a lot of money, but now at least you can make money swimming, which you never could do. So that's the biggest change, I think. Um, and the underwaters, there
Yeah.
was no underwater dolphin kicking. I
Burk off.
mean, popped up right there at the flags.
That might have been
If you
better
went
for
that,
me.
yeah,
Better for me, better for Bobby. I don't know. That might have played
that's right.
to our strengths.
That's right. Hey, yeah, Bobby and you. Yeah, you both were not the greatest at under, but
Yeah, we
you
struggled.
did it. Yeah, but there was none when I swam.
Yeah.
Nobody did it. The backstrokers, butterfly, nobody did it. Uh, so those are the two biggest changes I've seen in the sport.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy to think that even post grad, you weren't able to, accept money. I
I
think
know.
except for living, expenses, whether it's like rent or transportation, but it's
Yeah.
incredible that we expect these swimmers to dedicate their lives and kind of put everything on hold so that they're able to fulfill this dream and
Yeah.
fulfill their love for the
That's what it is. It's a dream
it is.
because so few people make the Olympic team.
Mhm.
I mean, what are there's 400,000 swimmers and 40 make the Olympic team, something
Yeah.
like that, give or take. So it is a dream. And so for so many that dream is unfulfilled. But yeah, I've always kind of said, Summer, to tell you the truth, I know this sounds uh, like it's corny for sure, but I learned a lot more from the journey than I actually did being an Olympian,
Hmm.
or certainly from winning. The winning didn't teach me anything, really. If anything, it just. Gave me a big head. I learned a lot more uh, from the journey to the games than I ever did about actually being an Olympian.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I didn't want it, and looking back, I mean, it was great, and winning and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think most will look back on their career that are, not Olympians that did not make it all the way. And I hope that they look back and realize how much they got out of actually the journey itself.
Yeah. It took me a few years. I'm a few years, I say a few, every year a few turns into a few more. I'm a
Yeah.
little bit removed from the sport now, and it definitely took a little bit to kind of come to terms
Yes.
with the fact that it was over and to
Yes.
be able to recognize that even though you don't reach that ultimate goal, because the Olympics for most swimmers is the pinnacle of what we're trying to
Yes.
reach.
It is.
Just because you didn't reach that doesn't mean that your journey and your career wasn't
Right.
successful. So it
That's
does
what I
stick a
try to
little
tell
bit.
them.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly right. And with age and maturity, you'll every day gets a little better,
Yeah.
every day, the wound heals
Hmm.
if you have wounds. That they heal. I think the ones that really have a hard time healing are the 1980 Olympians
Yeah.
that actually made the Olympics, like myself, and didn't even get a chance to go because of the
Mhm.
boycott. So I think those wounds certainly take longer, and everybody's wounds are a little bit different. Um, some are emotional, some are physical. Um, but I like to think time heals those wounds anyway.
It does. Time heals all.
Yeah.
Um, International competition is heating up. It seems like it's a lot more closer than it used to be. Australia, China, Italy, France, just to name a few, are really pushing hard and making strides in the sport. Do you think the US is keeping pace, or are we starting to see cracks develop?
I don't think there's necessarily cracks. I think our sport needs to do a better job in helping our athletes. That was my point in making those comments that I did this past summer, was the fact that I don't think we help our athletes enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not sure any specific person or even governing body is wrong. I just think there's got to be a way. Um, to be able to help these kids fulfill their dreams and to alleviate the stress of finding out where they're going to get their next meal or
Yeah.
worried about, I can't afford this food right here. I don't want them to do what I did, live off of macaroni and cheese and cereal my whole life, that shouldn't be in 2025. It shouldn't be that way. And and so I do think the rest of the world is catching up, and I think we're to blame for that in a way.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is a lot of these international kids swim and train here.
Yeah.
If you look at the two best swimmers in the world right now, I
Yeah.
mean, Summer McIntosh and Leon are the arguably, I mean, Gretchen Walsh will have a lot to say about that, and Kate Douglas, and there are a lot of people that can argue that. But
Yes.
arguably, they're the two best swimmers in the world. They're not from the U.S. yet they live and train here. I don't blame them.
Hmm.
That those are the rules. They're going by the rules. You can do
Yeah.
that. But, it doesn't help our athletes. So we need to find a way to help our athletes. And it's got to be people that are a lot smarter than me to figure that out.
Yeah, it's twofold. I mean, there's two different arguments, and I say two, there might be thousands of different arguments when it comes to the collegiate system and how it's set up. And so, at the end of the day, like people are people, we're all trying to prevail in this sport and reach the top level no matter what nation we come from. But at the same time, you have the argument that these are our resources, our spots in collegiate systems. So what would you say to those two arguments? What is your take on either side of
What's the solution?
if there is one?
I think there needs to be a limit
Yeah.
on international athletes at universities, at least a limit on scholarships.
Mhm.
So if men get, on average 10 scholars, I don't know what it is now,
Now
9.9 or
it's all up in the air.
it may be, yeah. By the way, I think unless we do something dramatic, college swimming will completely disappear in the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
So we have to figure that out for sure. but in its present state, I think you need to put a limit on college scholarships for international athletes. I don't. It doesn't mean that you can't have them, but if men are allowed 10 scholarships and women 14, I'm making up a number. You get three for international kids. The other seven have to go to Americans. If
Hmm.
you get 14 women, four go to international and 10 have to go to American. I don't know what the number is, but I think that's one way to solve a little bit of it, a little bit of the problem. But uh, but I don't blame college coaches though, Summer,
No.
either. I mean, that's their job. Their job is to win. Their job is not to recruit Americans.
Yeah.
You know,
It's to get the
their
fastest swimmer.
financial
Yeah.
yeah, their financial security depends on how well they perform.
Hmm.
Right? So if I'm a college coach, I'm going to be recruiting every single foreigner I can if they're
Yeah.
faster than American.
Hmm.
It's just that's the way the system is. But I think if you set limits, you know that you can only give this many to international kids. I think that would help in a way. But I don't know, man. I'm not smart enough to figure it. But it's just hard for me to believe there isn't somebody that says, you know what, this is the way we need to be able to do things.
Yeah. Some type of leadership or some way to, quantify and say this is the limit. So it does
Yeah,
somewhat
it's
fair
not
to
rocket
every
science.
school. From what I got my degree in, it might be.
Me too.
Speaking of challenges in swimming, we're gonna move on into the whole USA Swimming debacle itself.
Yeah.
So just recently, USA Swimming announced the new CEO after over
Mhm.
a year-long search. What do you think of the new hire, and what do you believe the role needs to look like to move the sport forward?
Well, I've never met Kevin Ring. I did talk to him on the phone.
Hmm.
He called me literally. It was either the day it was announced or the day after, but we chatted on the phone for about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Really great guy. I was very impressed with the conversation, and some of his goals. You know, my main concern is obviously helping the current athletes, but also the way to get our alumni involved.
Yeah.
Um, you know, some of the key legends in our sport have never been sought after for advice or counsel. Certainly not in the last year. I mean, I can name literally the 20 or 30 greatest Olympians still alive, still here. Not one was called during this search for NTD or CEO. And so that hurt my feelings, and I know it hurt a lot of others that, you know, we've given so much to the sport that we weren't even allowed to be advocates for trying to help find that next person. He understood that, and he said that, you know, my goal is to listen now, and I'm going to call all of those alumni that you feel like I need to call and talk to. And I gave him a list, and he said I'm going to call them. And So I was very impressed. I just never met him. He doesn't have a swimming background,
Yeah.
which I don't think is the worst thing. Um, because well, it's twofold, Summer. One, the con in all of that is he he's going to have to go on
Learn.
this listening tour. I mean, it's going to have to
Yeah.
be a learning process, and I think the next 3 years are the most important 3 years in the history of our sport. And so it's going to take time to kind of ramp things up where we really don't have time.
Hmm.
The pro side of that is he doesn't have an agenda, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't know Anthony Nesty or Bob Bowman. You know, he doesn't know anybody. He doesn't know anybody. So he's not going to have favorites because he doesn't know anybody. So at least he can start with a clean slate. And I think that will help him. Um, and not to have those favorites. And if he did come from a swimming background, he might have that. So I just don't know enough to have a real good sense one way or the other. But I
Mhm.
felt really good from our call the other
Yeah.
day, and I want him to be successful. I I desperately want him to,
Yeah. I
you
think
know?
that's the main thing is we all want the
Yes.
new CEO to be successful, as you said, these next
Yes.
3 years coming into a home Olympics. It's
Yes.
big shoes to fill. And so,
Absolutely.
giving him a list of former swimmers that
Right.
you can call up and learn from. We have so many icons in our sport that I can think just off the top of my head that I'd be honored to even have them look my way. And,
Yes.
we haven't done that outreach to get them involved in
No.
sport. It's almost like, in college, when you're done swimming, you touch the wall and you're done. The coach is moving on to the next class. And it's
Yeah.
almost the same thing in USA Swimming. Once you're not on the national team, it's almost just like, well, you got to figure your life out for yourself. But we desperately need these role models and these voices,
Mm.
especially to come down to our grassroots level and help our age group coaches who are struggling to keep these age groupers involved in the sport for the longevity.
No, no question about it. I've been asked to speak to two junior national teams from other countries. I
Mhm.
won't tell you what countries, but they've asked me to come and give a pep talk before a meet a couple times in the last few years. I've never been asked by USA Swimming to speak to the junior team, and I don't really need to
Yeah.
because in 3 years I'm going to be on the beach anyway. So I'm at the tail end. I'm on the 16th hole. Uh, but there are a lot of us out there that have these incredible life lessons, like a Janet Evans, like a Summer Sanders, like a Michael Phelps, soon to be like, well, not soon to be, I hope, but at some point, a Bobby Fink or a Katie Ledecky, uh, that that really need to be able to be relied on. And I hope one day um, that they'll learn that we as alumni only want to help, but
Hmm.
we need to be called.
You need guide. Yeah, there has to be structure, there has to be
Yeah.
guidance, and there's there's a lot that you can do on your own, but from an organizational standpoint, it doesn't by means reach the tip of the surface by getting USA Swimming and everyone else involved.
Out on your own, but you're not going to. I don't see a Tom Dolan calling USA Swimming and, hey, can I come speak to your junior national team or
Yeah.
can I help? I mean, that shouldn't be Tom Dolan's responsibility. That I'm not, I haven't talked to Tom, by the way. I don't know anything about that, but that should be the responsibility of the NGB, of the organization itself. And Kevin said that that's what's going to happen. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, only time can tell. Um,
Yeah.
the organization has had its share of scandals over the past few years, and it seems criticism is everywhere you turn, thanks to social media and all of the tabloids that we have in swimming now. So, how do you think USA Swimming can start to rebuild trust within our swimming community?
Well, I think first and foremost is transparency.
Mhm.
They need to be transparent in pretty much everything they do. They need to start treating members not as members, but as customers. You know, these are dues paying customers. They don't owe the organization anything. The organization owes them something. And I'm not just talking about the Bobby Finks of the world. I'm talking about the little 11-year-old who just signed up for her first swim meet. There are 400,000 or whatever the number is now, uh, paying customers.
Mhm.
And I think that has to start with transparency, with great communication, um, and a board that comes together as one. We have a board of directors, but I think, especially in the last year, I mean, I think they'll admit themselves has been dysfunctional. I
Mhm.
mean, no other organization or NGB has ever in the history of NGBs, which goes back 50 years, has ever taken 370 hire a CEO after the previous one um, was left.
Mhm.
The only one that comes close was gymnastics, and that was like 5 or 6 months. So, um, and that's the board's fault. That's
Yeah.
nobody but the board's fault. The board of directors couldn't come up with a decisive answer on who that would be, except for back in February, which turned into a mess in itself. So I think answer again to your question is I think we need to have that transparency from the sport, from the organization, but also from the board itself. And
Hmm.
the board needs to work together for the betterment of the sport, not their 15 minutes of fame. I know a lot of the board members. I don't know all of them, but I know most of them and great people individually. They're so wonderful, Summer. And many have represented our country in an incredible way, but it collectively is where they are dysfunctional. And I think that will change. I think they realize they messed up. And I think at the end of the day, I think things will get better from now on. I'm hoping they learn from their mistakes, so to speak, and things will change in a big way.
Yeah. I mean, communication and transparency, that is ultimately, I know
Yeah.
you said it, but that's desperately what we need. And there's so many channels that we get our resources and our news from. And so just
Yeah.
also building that marketing and that management from like within to your quote unquote customers and to USA Swimming would go such a long way. I mean, we
Yeah.
rely on, as I said, our swimming tabloids to get the majority of our news where sometime more often than not, USA Swimming is just silent on a matter. And so it would be
Yeah.
nice just to have some form of communication from them so that the whole governing body, the whole of USA Swimming knows exactly what's going on so that we
Yeah.
can trust them.
Very true. Very true. And one last thing is probably money. You know, they need to do a better job in raising money. We've had a few corporate partners leave, and really very key ones like Phillips 66, who's been with us for 50 years,
Yeah.
and then Marriott. I mean, so we need to get more funding into the sport so we can give it out.
Hmm.
That's the other thing is we need to be completely transparent with the financial situation as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's a
Um,
nonprofit.
yeah, it's difficult.
They they
Uh,
have to be transparent. If it was, if it was Marriott, then I'd say you don't have to tell us anything.
yeah.
But they're not. They're a nonprofit, meaning it should be a public record,
100%.
everything they do.
Yeah. You've been very vocal about the team and the sport. So I know you mentioned earlier about your statements both during and after Worlds. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about it. So at the last World Championships, you were pretty blunt about Team USA's performance. Why did you feel like it was important to call it out in that moment?
Well, it wasn't so much their performance as it was the idea that we're invincible because we're
Hmm.
not invincible anymore. We cannot. I even said, I think in the article, I used to show up at any international meet and just automatically think I'm going to make the finals. I'm from the US. I'm going to make finals. What's the big deal? And I think it's okay to have that attitude somewhat, but we need to, I think, collectively understand what your point was earlier. The rest of the world is caught up, that the preliminaries are maybe just as important as the semifinals and finals for many. Not for your brother, not for Katie Ledecky, not for Kate Douglas, but for many, it needs to be much more important than it has in the past. And I won't get into details, but I can tell you that I got a lot of calls
Hmm.
over the last year, especially last summer, about um, how the team uh, was not treated right. That there were a lot of problems, and they were calling me, and one of them was about the whole, you know, Olympic Village staying and how far that was, and sitting on buses that were 100 degrees, windows rolled up, taking an hour to get to the pool, and no food left at the village when they got back.
Yeah.
And I'd get calls and from athletes saying, Rowdy, you've got to do so, get us some hotel rooms. I was the one that called and got hotel rooms for them. I didn't pay for it, but I helped put that
Advocated. Yeah.
into gear, right? So I think my point this summer in calling the team out was not calling the team out. It was calling the team around the team, you
Yeah.
know? Um, And I think the biggest thing was the biggest word was entitled.
Hmm.
I think I used the word entitled in a newspaper article, and I think that's the one that kind of got me in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, but my feeling of entitlement was exactly what I just said earlier about the fact that we feel like we're entitled to be there, and we're not. It's a blessing that we're there, and there should not be a sense of entitlement. And I'm not saying any one kid felt that in Singapore. Not one. I'm not singling out anybody. I never heard that. I never felt that of anybody. I'm just saying going forward, we've got to make sure that we don't have that. That men every single lap, every single stroke, whether it's prelims or finals, has to count for something.
Yeah. I think,
I know that the sickness was a big issue.
yeah.
And if you watch the broadcast, I probably said it 100 times.
Hmm.
I mean, I literally said, if if those four guys were healthy, they would have won the gold medal. If she's healthy, she breaks the world record. You know, I knew the sickness got him, and we didn't make excuses, but we explained that many, many times.
Yeah. No, it's easy to get caught up on, as you said, one word within one article. And unfortunately, that's today's society. You say one thing and you may have meant it a completely different way, but social media and, you know, internet sources are going to take that and they're going to run with it. And then it gets back to the swimmers and it creates this whole controversy from within Team USA that I don't think is very healthy when we're all just trying to be on the same page. And I mean, you bring up such important points, which is how we treat these athletes that have made it to this level. I mean, I can't imagine being so excited to go to my first international meet or making your very first Olympics and then getting there and having the dorms be run down. You're on beds that aren't comfortable. You're trying to perform your best for your country. And this is what you're provided with. And
Right.
it's like, what's going on and what needs to change, but
Yeah.
it needs to change.
Yep. That's all I was saying. We just need to have changes. And I think some people were a little upset that maybe I had defended Michael, but Michael and I have been talking, Summer, every day for the last 6 months.
Hmm.
Not one conversation ever was around the athletes.
Hmm.
So when that gravestone, which by the way, he never created, it wasn't him that created it.
Yeah.
Um, when that gravestone or uh, whatever thing that came out, that meme that came out, he was saying he was so upset about how the sport has not supported the athletes. He did that about the sport. He didn't say USA Swimming swimmers.
Yeah.
He said USA Swimming, and and I knew that's what he meant. And so it kind of made me mad that, people got on him. And I understand that a little bit because they didn't understand the background behind that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a knock against the athletes at
Yeah.
all. Um, and he was really upset that they thought it was. And so, he put a letter out again after that, and I did.
It's the back and forth
And
that
then we just said, let's just lay low for
for
a
a
while.
while, let it all just
Yeah, let it
blow
just play out.
over.
So we both have kind of taken a step back and going to play golf with them this weekend. So there you go.
There you go. I will say, like from the outside looking in, because I mean, obviously my brother's still
Yeah,
competing and he was one of the captains, which was a huge, huge highlight. Couldn't be more proud of him. But,
yep,
you see an image, just an image that's reposted. And, Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte, they have millions of followers, followers that don't follow the sport of swimming, followers that have no idea what's going on within our community, within our board, or even at Singapore itself. And so there is also an argument to be said that, we have to be very careful with how we word our criticisms to make sure that it's not directed at the athletes. Because I
right.
know that from the outside looking in, even as someone involved in the sport, when I saw the tombstone, obviously I'm protective of my brother. I was like, no way. Like, it has to be bigger than that. but it does take time for that messaging to come out. So I also think, as a whole, we need to be part of the solution instead of
The
internet
problem.
internet trolls, coming out of the midst everywhere. Because I know me and my mom were going back and forth. I was like, no, you can't post that on Facebook. And I was like, you need to remove the last part of what you're posting. And then I was like, should I comment? And I was like, no, don't comment. Like, leave it. And so I know it's very difficult, from the outside looking in to know what exactly is meant,
Yeah.
especially when it's just an
And,
image.
and both Michael and I understand that. We do. And I think between what we said together and Mel's thing that came out,
Mhm.
I, I I I hope people understand now that that it's just the opposite of calling them out. In fact, it's we care so deeply about them that
Yeah.
we're offended that they were not taken care of 100%,
Mhm.
And but but I'll take this as right now as a chance to apologize to anybody that felt like on that team, especially specifically on that team that I for some reason uh, dissed them which
Yeah.
it was never my intent whatsoever. But um, I could see that that would have been taken out of context for sure. Certainly, my interview was taken out of context.
Yeah. And I say we've all, I've been involved in the sport pretty much my whole life, and you've been in the sport for decades. Michael is still the epitome of, USA swimming and, 8 gold medals in one Olympics. And so I do think that there is so much positive that came out of those comments, and
Yeah,
there's so much positive that we're seeing moving forward. And having everyone on the same team again, it feels, it's only been a week, but it feels like we're finally moving the needle and we're all cohesively moving together and saying the same
yes,
thing.
yeah. And at the end of the day, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to say we're making a mountain out of a molehill, but I think at the end of the day, everything is going to work out just fine.
Mhm.
We're going to be fine. We're going to be great in LA, our men, our women. We're going to kick ass, and there's no doubt in my mind we will. Um, but we do need to listen
Yeah.
to somebody like Michael Phelps
Yeah.
because he is the greatest Olympian in history, and arguably, and certainly in my opinion, the greatest athlete in history. So why wouldn't you want to have him be a part of the solution,
Yeah.
And that's all he wants, He
Mhm.
just wants to be a part of the solution.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, Going into a more positive note, what gives you the most hope when you look at this next generation of athletes? Is there someone we should be keeping our eye on, or maybe a coach or team that you say they really got it?
I've always loved Ron Aiken,
Yeah.
he seems to be a guy that just uh, produces, day in and day out. Great guy, a typical wonderful club swimming coach, USA swimming club coach, and there are a lot of Ron Aikens out there.
Mhm.
I think what Chris Davis is doing in Atlanta is awesome. I mean, there are so many out there. Um, Nation's Capital. I love Bruce Kimmel. There are a lot of great coaches, and obviously our college coaches, Bob and Anthony and Dave Durden, David Marsh. There's so many. I'm going to leave out somebody. Ray Luz. I mean, I don't want to forget somebody, so I shouldn't even mention names, but they know who they are. And I think our men's team is actually going to be really good.
Yeah, we have
I
a lot
know
of young
that,
stars.
yeah, right. We have a lot of young kids, and we've got some good veterans to kind of mix in there a little bit
Mhm.
that will help those kids come along. So I think the people that are, crying that the sky is falling with the men, um, we'd much rather the sky fall now than we
Yeah.
would in 3 years, right? And And I think that's what's going to happen is I think our men's team is, I think it has the potential of being even better than our women's team. And our women's team doesn't need any help right
Nope,
now.
they are all
They're-
set.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're just simply amazing, and perhaps the greatest collection of women's U.S. women's swimmers in history.
Hmm.
Which is saying a lot because we've had a lot of good U.S. women's teams before. But I think the collection in and of itself, I mean, I go back to 200 back for women at nationals, and I think the sixth place finisher would have finished top five at world championships.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane how good our women are. And so I think they'll be fine
Yeah.
too.
No, it's incredible every year to see the times keep dropping and keep dropping. And, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's been said, but it's like, where is the limit? Because I remember the Olympic trial cuts when I swam and what they are now and what it takes to make finals and semifinals. And it's just
Right?
absolutely amazing at how far our sport has come in such a short time span.
So, dude, in 1984, there were 300 swimmers that made trials. We had like 300, 325 or something like
Yeah.
that. Total swimmers made the team, made the trials. So if you made trials, you were close. I mean, I think there were 25 people in the 100 freestyle.
Hmm.
So if you made trials, you had
You're
much
pretty
better
close.
odds of making the Olympic team than you do now, obviously. So, um, but yeah, there are so many swimmers now that are stepping. Every time they make trials harder, somehow or another, we meet that quota. They
Yeah.
were going to try. I think they wanted to limit it to like 800 in 2024, and there were over 1,000. It just seems like,
You
you
can't
know,
limit us.
yeah, it's you just don't mess around with USA Swimming. We've been number one in the world of swimming since 1956,
Yeah.
70 years.
I don't think
No
any
other
other sport.
sport,
Yep.
no other team can ever claim that kind of excellence. And
Hmm.
I brag about that all the time. And we were number one this year.
Yeah. No, it gives me chills just thinking about it and knowing that, we're all striving for the same thing to uplift these
Yeah,
athletes and make sure that their future is better than the ones before them.
I love your brother.
Oh, I love him too. He's great. He's
I
fun.
think I've never gotten so excited. Well, no, I can't. I take that back. I've gotten excited plenty of races,
A
but
few times.
yeah, you saw the Rowdy Cam when I was with
Yeah.
Bobby in Paris. Yeah, it was unbelievable. I
Oh,
was going nuts.
yeah, he isn't the most emotional swimmer, and we were always taught just to be so humble. So when you see swimmers have their
Yeah,
extravagant
incredibly humble
reactions
guy.
after like a 50 free or 100 free, to see him smack the water, that's all I
It's
needed.
like, yeah,
It's like he is
so humble.
happy.
It
That's
was
all I needed.
truly one of the great moments in my broadcasting career was calling that race
Hmm.
on my Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah, no, he had the whole family crying. Everyone
Yeah,
was crying. I was screaming,
yeah,
but that's
pretty
not
cool.
unusual for me. His very first race, not his very first race, but Olympic trials, I want to say when he was 15, and he made finals. He was supposed to fly out that day because he wasn't supposed to make finals. We had flights booked. He didn't have a hotel room for that night.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
remember watching him in the stands. I was next to my mom, and it's a common occurrence for me, but I just started crying. And that was the moment where I was like, he is going to continue to do this and he is going to do something special. And uh,
Yeah,
corny moment, but yeah, I couldn't be more proud of both the swimmer that he is and also how he holds himself and how he carries himself and how
yeah, he
he
does.
uplifts everyone around him. So to see him
Absolutely.
be a veteran on the team was a little bit weird. He's calling himself old, and I was like,
Yeah.
calm down.
How old is he now?
25, he turns
25? Yeah.
26 in November, which is still weird,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
age. One last question for you. So, after all of these years, what keeps you passionate about swimming, and what do you hope your legacy in the sport will be?
I think just what keeps me going is the fact that I have the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
I got TV monitors in front of me that I get to draw on, uh, and I get to see the best swimmers in the world competing at the highest level. I got to call. every single race of the two greatest swimmers in history, Michael and Katie, which is that's a blessing that I don't take for granted. So every time I call something, I know there's going to be a surprise. Um, and and that kind of keeps me going. I love surprises. And I think at the end of the day, it's just, I hope people know that I really care for the sport. The last thing I'll say is, when I was in high school, Summer, I don't want to say I was going down a dark path, but I was going down a path that could head that way.
Hmm.
And so when I made the swim team, like I told you earlier, I mean, it saved my life, man. And and so I think I hope my legacy will mean that, that I was somebody that really cared about it. That's all.
No, it definitely shows, and I think you already have that legacy. And I think I can speak for the majority of USA Swimming and swimming fans when, we say you've contributed so much to the sport when you were involved in it, when you won your gold medals and set 10 world records in like 6 years, to all that you're doing for the sport now. I mean, like I said, the first time we met, you were just picking up trash around a pool deck. And so having figures like you involved in our sport is only going to advance it. And, I hope that we continue to have people like you when you retire and no longer broadcast to help keep that passion and that love for the sport alive.
Thank you, Summer. Feelings mutual. You too.
Well, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this week's episode of Lane One Making Waves. Rowdy has shown us what it truly means to rise above obstacles, to never give up on your dreams, and to use your platform to make a difference. From gold medals to legendary calls, he is truly the voice of swimming. A huge shout out to the International Swim Coaches Association and also Swimming World Magazine. Without their help, this podcast would not be possible. If you would like to stay up to date on all things Lane 1 Making Waves, please give us a like, subscribe, comment what resonated most with you throughout this episode. I will link all of our social media handles here and also put them in the description below. So with that, I will catch you guys next time.